is really good to be here, not just here, obviously, this morning, but to be here at Linton with the schools. You know, I felt a calling to be an administrator for, this is my 24th year, 12th as a superintendent, but obviously the first one here. And I just feel that is what my calling is to work with students, work with the community and to get the best and offer the best that we can for them. And when the opportunity came to interview and talk to the board about this position, first of all, it felt really good to have to sit down with people that had, I think, good ideas and have things going on really well. You know, whenever, and I'm sure in whatever line that you're in, you feel the same way. When you go to look at the potential new position, you do a little bit of research, you look into what things are going on, and one of the things I can say is obvious, you know, for somebody who worked at school corporations very close by, it's obvious the athletic prowess that the Linton schools have. I mean, you can see that across the board through all three sports seasons, that they do things right there. But the underlying thing about that is, it does say that there's more going on than just the athletics, because you can't sustain that kind of excellence if that's all your focus is, especially at a school level. And so you dig a little bit deeper and you see some of the academic things that are going on, and you know they're doing things the right way. And I've found that to be the case as I've come in my short time in the office. My official start date was July 1. And just the various programs, and we began at, our youngest student right now is 4 months old in our daycare. So 4 months, we start that young, and then obviously have them all the way through the senior year. And because we start so young, we're able to streamline, I think, the kinds of things that we want to do. And I say we, because I'm a part of that, but I had nothing to do with setting any of that up. I just get to ride the wave that's already started. A little bit of background about myself. I said this is my 24th year of administration. I first began teaching in Wabash Valley Correctional Facility in '93. December of '93, I went to work for Vincent University and started teaching adult basic education BD classes at the prison in Carlisle, and I loved it. It was great. Now, if you think being in prison is enjoyable, you know, it's my perspective. You know, I got to walk out the door every day, but the other side of it was just seeing the progress that could be made. But it was. I had some autonomy because I taught in different parts of the prison, which again seems a bit of an oxymoron when you're talking about a prison. You have some autonomy, but I was able to move into different parts of the area, and I just liked it. But 3 years in, my wife, who's a school nurse at North Knox, said, "Hey, they're looking for a social studies teacher at North Knox. Are you want to apply for that?" And I really didn't. I was enjoying enough what I was doing. I thought, you know, this is my retirement job. And I mentioned that to one of my coworkers at the prison, who then mentioned it to our education supervisor. He said, "I'm going to fire you for not applying. If you don't, you're silly to not give it the chance." Well, I did. I was hired, and the rest is history. I was 5 years in the classroom at North Knox, and then became the principal in the 2001-2002 school year, and did that for 11 years. I enjoyed it. I always tell what grade my youngest daughter was in, because that's what year I was in, you know, my years as a principal. So I started her first grade year. And when I had the opportunity to become the superintendent at South Knox for the 12-13 school year, the hardest part of that decision was not being there to be principal for my daughter her senior year in high school. But it went well. I had I had 11 great years at South Knox. It was a good school corporation. I learned a lot. I had good people around me, and it was a good system. But last year I spent as principal again event back at North Knox High School, which was a great experience to be in touch with the kids again and those kinds of things. But I knew that Dr. Grove was preparing to retire. We had talked a little bit the year before, and so when she did announce that, I threw my hat in the ring, and the rest is history, I guess. But I just love this aspect of education. I think it's an opportunity to again surround myself with really good people, to continue programs that benefit our kids. I mean, right now, I mentioned the early childhood. I have a 4-month-old. We go up to, right up to preschool, and then we have a preschool into kindergarten, and we're able to have those different things build on. It's just a foundation. And I like to think of education as a, if you will, for the student, like a 3-legged stool. If you have a 3-legged stool, you don't see very many of those anymore, but they're pretty good engineering pieces. I mean, they serve a really good purpose. Now, the stool isn't going to do very well if it's not on a pretty good foundation, and I think that the bedrock and foundation for education is what's already in place here at Linton-Stockton. You know, it's well established. We produce a lot of really good professionals, but not just professionals. We produce a lot of really good citizens who take care of the community. But that's the foundation, and that's pretty solid. So you've got a good place to put that stool. But the 3 legs of that are first the school, and we have to make sure we're doing our job, but it's also the parents, and we have to work very closely with the parents. But still, that's only 2 of the legs, and it's not going to go very well with just 2 legs. The third is the student himself or herself. That person needs to be there so that they can work together to hold up that seat. And the seed is the learning that takes place for the student. And so I think you have all those things there, all those things in place, you can create those kinds of citizens that we need to have, the taxpayers, the professionals, just those folks who are going to be of benefit to us. And we certainly hope that they remain in the community or come back to the community after college, but certainly wherever they go, that they're significant contributors, and that they can say, you know, privately, I came from Linton. I went to Linton-Stockton schools, and it'll be identifiable that they do. More personal background, and that's kind of my educational philosophy a little bit. I had 4 siblings growing up. I'm the 3rd of 5 children. 3 of my siblings are still alive, but my youngest brother is deceased, passed in 2018. My mother passed in 2013. But you know, interestingly, I think education is very important to me. It was very important to my parents, but neither of my parents graduated high school. My mom eventually got her GED after I was out of high school, but they very much emphasize the importance of education. Mom dropped out of high school because she didn't want to give a speech in sophomore year. She just didn't want to give a speech in English class, and so she was very well read. One of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life, and yeah, I'm biased because it's Mom, but she, I think, did a good job of emphasizing the things. Dad quit school because he just was ornery. He turned 90 on the 3rd of August, and he will tell you, we were talking about he's not very, very bright, but he is. He just was ornery. He didn't want to go to school. He said, I knew more than the teachers did anyway, so I wasn't. And thankfully, I didn't take that aspect from him. But he did emphasize the importance of education, and I think that's the thing. When I talked about the 3-legged stool, that's where our parents need to come in. Too often, we forget what it is to be present. And as parents, we have to guard against we want our kids to like us. You know, I spoiled my girls. I readily admit that, but I also held them accountable for certain misfortune of having a parent that was an educator and a parent who was a nurse. And so, you know, if they didn't feel well, tough, you know. If they were sick, you know, that's one thing, but you know, and that's the difference. I think some people don't know the difference between being sick and not feeling well. And so, you know, as parents, we have to ensure that the kids get to where they're supposed to be, that they do show up, because that's a life lesson. That's something to find out about, you know, being there and the being present. You know, I heard, I had a friend growing up, and he was the master of malapropisms, where he couldn't quite get the saying exact right, a little bit like Yogi Berra. You know, he just didn't get it quite right. But one thing he always said, well, wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are, which was, I think, profound. I also, at one point, heard Nell Fortner, who used to coach, that was the first coach in the Indiana Fever, and she said, wherever you are, be all there. I think those two things it's a good philosophy to operate by. And I try to stress that, and I tried to stress that with students when I was a classroom teacher. I didn't say that to my students who were at the prison, because they had no choice but to be there. I think it is important to take full advantage of where you are. You can't change that at that particular moment, so take full advantage of where you are. And I think when we do that, then we just benefit the most out of it. I mentioned before about parents wanting their kids to like them. And I say this, and nobody loves their children any more than I do. But you know, when I was raising them, I didn't always like them a whole lot, because they just weren't real likable. And they didn't like me very much either, because I wasn't super likable. But I loved them unconditionally. And to love them unconditionally was to sometimes make decisions for them that they couldn't make for themselves. And I'm more of a smart aleck than I need to be. That's just, I think maybe growing up with 4 siblings did that to me, I don't know. But when my youngest would tell her mom and I that we were the meanest parents out there because we didn't let her do something, I always high five, you know, to my wife, because I was number one, and I enjoyed being number one. But that's the kind of thing. And I know I'm kind of scattered all over the place, but I think those philosophies as a parent blend very well with my philosophies as an educator. I think the idea for me is, if the students can get out at school and reflect back that, you know, maybe I was punished for this activity or whatever I did here, but it was never made personal, then they will learn a lesson from that. And I think that's something I really took, in all seriousness, I got from the prison. Any decision that was made, I never tried to make it personal with my students. You know, I was teaching, in all honesty, I was teaching, you know, people serving life sentences, 100-year sentences, folks that would not be out in my lifetime. And so they obviously had issues with rule following and everything, and I just did not want to make anything personal. And that I did take that with me as I entered public school education, in that don't set somebody up for failure by challenging them head on. As a principal of a school that hosted various IHSA sectional tournaments, if I had to get on a group of kids, I would get on that group of kids and turn around and walk away. You know, I would ask them to stop what they're doing and then leave right away. And I think the reason I did that was they have to save face. And if I stand there and wait for them to react to what I say, they're going to react. And it's not going to be a good thing. But if I say what I need to have done, walk away, they can get to their friends, and 9 times out of 10, they did what I asked them to do. And I think that's one of the things in education that we try and do. My philosophy, or another philosophy I have is in life, especially as an educator. Now, I'll have former students come up to me, and thankfully I've not had so many that I can't remember them, and I always had taught at the secondary level. So they didn't change a whole lot from an 18-year-old or 15-year-old to a 40 or 50-year-old. And I have some 50-year-old students, and believe it or not, that I have just right in the early 50s. And I think, gosh, I can't be that old, but you can recognize them. And I've always wanted to pass what I call the Walmart test. Now, we've all been to Walmart. As a teacher, sometimes you don't like to go out maybe in public and have your students see you, in real life. It's really different with the younger ones. But for me, the Walmart test is this. If I turn to go down an aisle, and from the other end of the aisle, I see a student around the corner about the same time. If they continue on that aisle toward me and greet me as we come face to face, I pass the Walmart test. If they see me and turn and find a reason to go somewhere else, I fail. And that applies anywhere that I am. And some of my former students that I dealt with for discipline issues most frequently are the ones that will come up to me and speak, have their little one with them, and say, this was my principal, I got detention from this, principal, or did whatever, but they're proud of that accomplishment that they had with them, and I think that makes me very happy. That makes me feel like I've made a difference. I don't know if any of my students remember what I taught them in 95, in May of 95 in U.S. History for college credit. I'm pretty sure I don't remember what I taught in May of 95, but they remember me, and I remember them as a student, and I think that's what we have to do as educators, is to create that relationship with our students, with our fellow workers, and with the community to make sure, we've created that kind of citizen that's going to go out and be a contributor wherever it is that they live. So, I can talk forever. Somebody told me one time that I could probably talk the prize out of the bottom of the Cracker Jack box. With that being said, is there anything that you would like to know about about me, about what we're doing